Dragons rank among the most iconic mythical beasts, essentially enormous reptiles capable of breathing fire. They're deeply embedded in stories and legends throughout many cultures. That's why dragons appear in myths, fables, folklore, and of course in popular films and TV shows. But where did the idea of dragons originate? Were they ever actual animals? And is it even reasonable to think a giant creature could fly and breathe fire? Before diving in, if this is your first time here, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated when we release new videos. One of the most fascinating things about dragons is that nearly every ancient civilization had stories about them, from China and India to the Middle East, Europe, and even the Americas. In Western traditions like those in Europe and the Americas, dragons are usually imagined as huge beings with strong limbs, razor-sharp claws, long necks, and bat-like wings. Yet across the globe in China, their version is entirely different. There, the dragon is a massive, serpentine figure without wings, but featuring whiskers and horns. As mentioned earlier, dragons are not confined to Europe or China. If you explore any early civilization, you'll find some representation of a dragon. The Persians told of Azidahaka, a yellow-hued dragon with horns large enough to rival mountains. The people of Mesopotamia had Meshusu. Indian mythology speaks of a being named Vritra. Greek legends describe the Hydra, a multi-headed monster. Norse tales in the far north mention Nidog. Even ancient Egypt portrayed a snake-like creature named Apep, or Apophis, strikingly similar to the Chinese dragon. They also had Wadjet, a winged serpent. What's truly odd is that these cultures were thousands of kilometers apart. Sure, the descriptions vary, but they all speak of a similar kind of beast. That led researchers to wonder, why did ancient people across the world all describe dragons? Does it mean dragons actually roam the earth, or is there a more practical explanation? One leading theory, and the most plausible one, is that what ancient people described as dragons were actually dinosaur remains. Throughout history, humans discovered enormous bones and skulls hidden underground. But without modern science, they couldn't know they were from prehistoric creatures. Interestingly, Chinese writings from over 1,700 years ago contain multiple reports of dragon bones being found. Because these remains were gigantic and unlike anything familiar, people assumed they belonged to creatures of great power, beings that could fly, breathe fire, and shine in the dark. Each culture gave the creature its own spin. In Chinese folklore, dragons were said to communicate with humans, known for their wisdom, kindness, and love for peace. But in the West, dragons were viewed as evil. Some even linked them to the devil himself. Their legends are full of brave warriors who slayed dragons to conquer darkness and restore good. And since dinosaur fossils have been found in many places worldwide, it's quite likely that ancient people everywhere discovered them and crafted unique tales around the bones. These legends were handed down through generations until they became the dragon myths we know today. Further supporting this theory is the existence of winged dinosaurs, like the Quetzalcoatlus, which had a wingspan reaching 10 meters. When upright, it stood as tall as a giraffe. This is why many believe this specific dinosaur may have inspired the dragon legends. There's also another theory. Dragons were never real, not even as fossils. Instead, they were entirely invented, purely products of human imagination with no link to dinosaurs. The concept here is that people wanted to envision a creature combining all the most powerful animals. So they took the lion, bat, snake, eagle, and crocodile, merged them, and thus created the dragon. And if you examine dragon depictions closely, you'll see their heads resemble crocodiles or lizards in Western myths, or lions in Chinese ones. Their wings resemble bats. Their claws are eagle-like. They often have scaly skin like fish. So dragons can be thought of as composite creatures, born from mixing traits of strong animals. Some experts also argue that dragons inherited many reptilian traits, especially from snakes, because humans instinctively fear such animals. And this animal fusion theory is strong, considering how much ancient civilizations worshipped and symbolized animals in their art and beliefs. Now let's tackle a big question. Could a dragon-like animal exist in reality? First, could something that large actually fly? The answer is no. The dragons shown in books and films are massive, sometimes weighing several tons. Western interpretations especially show them with bulging muscles, as if they trained every day. A creature like that wouldn't just fail to fly, it likely couldn't even leap. Why? Because flying creatures must have very light skeletons, usually with hollow bones. Not dense, heavy ones. The Quetzalcoatlus, even though as tall as a giraffe, only weighed about 70 kilograms, compared to an actual giraffe's 1,200 kilograms. Additionally, dragons are built like predators, lions or tigers, not like birds. So by the rules of biology and physics, a creature that size simply couldn't fly. Second, could a dragon ever breathe fire? Surprisingly, while unlikely, it's not completely ruled out. No animal today can shoot flames, but some come quite close. Consider the bombardier beetle. When threatened, it sprays hot chemicals from its body at nearly 100 degrees Celsius, making a mini blast and cloud of vapor. This puzzled scientists for years. How could a tiny insect produce boiling liquid without hurting itself? Turns out the beetle doesn't cook anything inside its body. Instead, it stores two separate chemicals. When in danger, it combines them in a small chamber near its rear. This triggers a reaction that creates heat and an explosive burst. This led scientists to ask, if a small beetle can do this, maybe fire breathing isn't entirely out of reach. If a creature like a dragon had the ability to produce something like diethyl ether and a way to ignite it, then breathing fire might happen through chemical reaction, not through combustion or flame. In the end, no one has found any true dragon fossils. All the information we have about dragons comes from myths and legends. So we can safely say that the dragons we see in fantasy worlds likely never existed in real life. But it's still possible that smaller flying creatures existed and maybe even expelled hot gases or chemicals. That wraps it up for now. If you've stayed with us this far, you're absolute legends. Leave a like so we can see who made it to the end. And if a random thought hits you late at night and won't let you sleep, drop it in the comments. We'll get to it. See you soon.